Hey everybody, this is Javier Balderramos. I have Matthew Negan here.
Nagin, yes.
And if people don't know who he is, he's been on a couple of movies, he's been on reality shows, he's won awards, he's a comedian. He has worked in 7 different countries when it comes to a comedian being funny. I wanted to bring him on and poke his brain a little bit. Thank you for being on, sir.
Thank you. And I'm thrilled to be here on planet Texas. Whatever that is, I'd like to get there with my lasso and hang out with you, bro. And I can feel that something good is happening here
You got
tonight.
good deal, good deal. Fix probably get a couple of beers in tonight.
Okay.
Have a good time. Well, a lot of people don't know, but you're a poet. A lot of people don't know you're a poet.
That's right. So I wrote three poetry books. I got them back. Oh, I got two of them right here. One of them I sold out. Yesterday I was at the Opelika Book Festival. But yeah, three. I've been writing poetry since I was 16. That's what led me down this path of creativity. I took this writing class and I got hooked. I was just filling up notebooks and got passionate about poetry, and I've done it on and off for the rest of my life. I really, when I was young, I thought I was Jim Morrison, but really I was writing like a lunatic in a notebook. But the great thing about poetry is anything goes. It's formless. It's not so commercial, so it's got a purity to it. So I always had an affection for it, and found it like a great way to just be in a primal creative state.
So I wanted to ask you about your award that you won for poetry. Your poem was called "If We Are Doomed." You actually won an award in 2018 about it. It's a very amazing accomplishment.
Thank you. I mean, sometimes you get lucky, I guess, but yes, that some of my poetry gets a little bit of a darker tone than in the comedy. I am dark in my comedy too, but it's a different kind of vibe, a little more reflective. But yes, that was nice to win that award. Uh, and just basically just enjoy creating poems, enjoy playing with words. I was an English major. I went to Cornell University. Then I did a master's at NYU, which was kind of like English interdisciplinary. So I've always had this interest in. I'm a bibliophile. I read a lot of books, and so um, definitely enjoy. I enjoy the whole, and I like reading other poets too. So
So what would people expect
oh,
from your collections?
from which?
From your short story collections, what would they expect?
Oh, okay. So yeah, those are poetry from the short story collection. Here, I got this right here. Bam. This is just hot off the press right here. Okay. The Book of Outcasts. It's 14 stories. You see, from the cover, you can get a vibe of what's going on. You got the UFO, right, which everybody's been talking about, New Jersey drones, and the military guy with the egg. And if you're watching News Nation, you're seeing that constantly. You got the pyramids, which are always evergreen. If you watch that show Ancient Aliens, you know what I'm talking about. The crocodile, he's chilling out, smoking a cigar. Back, you got the roulette wheel and it's burning. So what does that have to do? Those are all different things that are touched upon thematically in this book. Okay. Um, for example, there's in one of the wackier stories, there's a man who actually, like myself, was a comedian, but then he got into other things and older, this guy's uncle, and he comes back and tells his nephew this story, and his nephew thinks he's insane, but he's telling him about how he was abducted by aliens and he was in this planet where cannibalism is the norm, and it's a wild tale of adventure. and the nephew is skeptical the whole time of what he's telling him. But at the very end of the story, something very supernatural happens to this individual that makes the nephew realize like he was being a little bit too judgmental or skeptical, and then maybe there is something to all this wacky stuff that his uncle's telling him. So that's like an example of one. Another story is about AI. About right now with Neuralink, a lot of people are getting implants in the brain, which in theory could be a positive if you have Parkinson's or stuff like that. But there's a danger with these implants because as this becomes more common in the future, it's very likely that everyone is going to need an implant to compete in the workforce because what can happen is, right, this implant is going to impart incredible knowledge, right? You imagine you have the computing power of a quantum computer. You can speak every language instantly. You can remember everything. You're going to be a superior employee than the average person. And henceforth, there's also great power to manipulate and control individuals much more than we saw with the vaccine. And so, what the story is warning about is this dystopian landscape because this character doesn't want to get the implant, and everyone is converging on the few remaining people who do not. And, it's about his resistance and why he's resisting this push towards that, and kind of warning of the dangers of some of this technology. So, they're different stories, different topics. Um, it's a labor of love. I love writing. I think you would enjoy this book if you checked it out. And that's about it.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about everywhere you've been, because you've been in a lot of places. Like I have you written that you've been on Lifetime, you've been on TLC, you've actually worked with Al Pacino on the Amazon show called Hunter.
Hunters, yep.
Like, was there anything else that you've done?
I've done a lot of acting parts, different shows. Well, since you said you've done some law enforcement, um, I actually was on a show called Street Justice: The Bronx. Okay, and that was based on Ralph Friedman. He's the most, you're probably familiar with him, the most decorated NYPD detective in history. And he worked mostly in the 70s and or maybe early 80s as a detective. And it's about some of the cases he solved. Each episode is a
Like
different
story.
crime that he's solving, and he has to deal with his superiors because he's kind of a wayward detective. He does his own, he takes the law into his own hands, so to speak, and they want him to follow protocols. But usually by the end, if he manages to solve this crime with his own unorthodox methods, they kind of go along with him and appreciate him, even though he's a rule breaker. So in that, I play his boss, Sergeant Harris. And I'm on two episodes of that one, Street Justice: The Bronx. It's on Discovery, and I think it's streaming now on, I forget, Netflix or Amazon. I think it's on Amazon streaming. So if you want to check that one out. But I got to meet Ralph Friedman, uh, and mostly Jewish guys. Well, they're not tough. They're not like this. This guy, because I'm Jewish myself, but this guy was wrecking it. I mean, even though he's older and stuff, he's built and he looks tough. He looks like you don't want to mess with that guy. So
You
that
know,
was what?
Bill Goldberg's Jewish.
Who's that?
Bill Goldberg.
Oh, Bill Goldberg.
I think it was a few years ago. He actually made. I think they have the Jewish Hall of Fame. I think he got into into the Jewish Hall of Fame. Is what I was reading about.
Well, yeah, I guess there's some that break stereotypes, but our coordination and physical prowess isn't always our strongest suit. So, but hey, there's always the exception.
Of course. So what was it like when you actually got to work and interact with Al Pacino?
Uh, well, that was an honor because he's such an amazing actor. I mean, some of my favorite movies are with him, Scarface, and The Godfather, and you go on, Scent of a Woman. I mean, there's such a list, Dog Day Afternoon. Um, I didn't get that much
Yeah.
interaction with him because you're sort of doing the job. I mean, where he's right there and doing the whole scene. But I tell you this, seeing him act up close, and it was a scene where I was like an Orthodox cop, like I was part of a security force, and it was like an FBI raid. So there was a Mexican standoff where everyone pointed guns, and I was yelling Yiddish at this guy, and he's yelling at me to put it down. And then Al Pacino comes in and pushes my gun down and makes a speech. Now, some of it got cut in the editing, but you see some of it. But a lot of his speech got cut. But I tell you, seeing him up close, I mean, we know it's Al Pacino, but his acting was just, amazing. Uh, I guess that's why he's a legend. But just the way he delivers those lines, the way he's in character, there's few like him. That's all I can say. Um,
Well, I mean, you also have a short film called The Inside Job that's actually won several awards.
Definitely, that was. And now I'm working on a new one that I'm trying to put out. We're just finalizing called Sorry Mom. But yes, Inside Job is a short film and played at some festivals. It won Best Short at the Mediterranean Film Festival, Cannes. Now I know you're thinking, wow, you won the Cannes Film Festival. That's pretty good. Well, no, I'm going to be honest with you. There's another Cannes Film Festival, and it's not the biggest one. It's not Cannes. That's not really. I'm not saying it's a con, but it's not the big con. It's a smaller festival, but it won Best Short there, which was pretty cool. It's still a nice screening, and it won Best Supporting Actor at the Nice International Film Festival, and some other awards. And festival appearances. But basically, the film is about a young man, and it's his first day at a travel agency. He's an intern, and what he doesn't know is he's stepping into kind of a maddening. The boss is kind of a madman, more so than Wolf of Wall Street. Someone described the film, a critic, as Wolf of Wall Street on crack, because this boss is out to lunch with his drugs and his hookers or whatever he's engaging in. And so that's the beginning of it. And this kid is innocent and shocked. But as he gets involved, he realizes that they're not just a travel agency. That's somewhat of a front. They're 9/11 truthers. They, believe 9/11 was an inside job and it was controlled demolition. And part of what they're doing is trying to bring people into their ritualistic belief in this idea and engaging in other shenanigans like dark arts. So he's just horrified by this, and it's what's going on as he's realizing what these people are really like. It's not the job he thought it was, and there's a little more to it than that, but that's the essence of the film. Yes,
So where
short.
can they your award-winning short film?
That is a great. Now I got the trailer on my website. Unfortunately, things got delayed and I had problems with some of the music rights for putting it out. And I haven't put that one out yet in the public, but soon it will be out there. But you can see the trailer. You can see information about it on my website. It did play in the festivals, but we're going through some legal fine tuning to get it out there.
And then I also have on here that you were directing and writing the film, correct?
Yes, that one I wrote and directed. and I acted in it. My character was Mr. G. Mhm.
So how did that work? How did that work out when you had to do a little bit of everything?
Well, it can be tricky because you're juggling different aspects, but it was a great experience. It just that was the first film really I ever made, except for making little films in college. I took filmmaking in college. I was in a film course. We used to do it on 16 millimeter film, and we'd actually splice it together. Um, that's actually how we did it back then. That's was my age. But but yeah, so it was a very good experience. But there's a lot involved with making a film. It was a lot more, in certain ways, it's easier than it looks, and in other ways, it's more involved than you think as a novice. So a lot of it was a learning experience because I'm learning about color correction and sound design and various aspects of beyond the basics of other aspects of lighting. I mean, I've been around a lot on film sets because I've done a lot of acting and I've done extra work and writing jobs and whatnot. So I've been around it. I even did production assistant work back in the day. So I've been around it a lot, but it's still different when you're directing. I'd say it's a great experience, but you know, it's it's definitely very interesting. But I ended up focusing more for myself on writing and stand up and other things. But definitely I enjoyed it.
Well, it seems that when you mentioned stand-up, that we haven't yet talked about you being an actual comedian.
Mhm.
So I know you have several original characters, and so can you just tell us what
Well,
is your favorite character and how you developed them?
the characters are just a lot of that was pandemic feeling. There was less places to perform during the pandemic, and for a while I quit stand up because everything was closed down and I burned out to it a little bit. And but the characters were a way to, and I still do them, just express different things, and I like it. It's kind of like acting. But yeah, in terms of which one would be the favorite, it's hard to say. But I made this little rap, and I like this one. I had this character, Little Chromesy. You know how there's like Little Wheezy, and then there's Big Pun, whatever. So I have this Crohn's disease. Although luckily I'm doing well now, everything's good. But I made this video with this alter ego, Little Chromesy, called Illest MC. He's the illest. It's a pun, but it's what was great about it is it was for charity because I'm involved with the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, which is a charitable organization for people that have these digestive illnesses. And they were giving me like this little award called the Mission Award. And I decided instead of just doing a regular speech, I wanted to play this video, make a video, and they could play it at the event, which was at the Garden City Hotel. And they were a little concerned about some of the subject matter, saying it was a little too extreme on the rap video. They almost didn't want to play it, but we got them eventually to play it, and the people loved it. It was a great night, and then it's done pretty well on YouTube. It has maybe 4,000 views or something, and it was just a fun project. But I have to say that one night was bittersweet because I was getting this award, and my 99-year-old grandma was there, and she ended up passing away at the event. So that was crazy. And then I still did the speech I had and played it because it was sort of I wanted it still go on. But so yeah, but it was good that I was able to dedicate the award they gave me to my grandma and carry on her spirit with that.
I'm sorry that that happened to you.
It's a
One of your
crazy.
best.
It's part of life. I mean, who the great part is maybe she passed on. She passed on when people were around her. She was dressed up. She wasn't alone. So in a weird way, it was a blessing. It was fast, you know.
So I know you do a lot of like darker comedy. Like so we could just say it like that. So how do you do it without crossing the line to where people are get offended by it?
Well, you can never 100% be sure that they won't get offended because every crowd is different.
Yeah.
Usually, you can feel out the crowds from doing it enough times, and you can sort of. It's like if you're swimming and the water's cold, you kind of dip your toe in, and you feel, and you're adjusting based on the tolerance level of the audience. And certain crowds, you can really push it. Other crowds, you might you might be able to slowly work your way in, or pull back and then push forward more again, or find out other ways in to make it more digestible. But I mean, with stand up, if they're not all coming to see you, it depends on the kind of show. There's always a risk it can go bad. It's that's the that's part of the process. What I try to do is just get the highest percentage possible, and I think over the time my percentage has gotten higher and higher of doing well. Where it's very, very few times. And then even if it's bad, you try to make it okay. It's not what it could be. But there are times when someone, gets offended by something or you know, anything you could think of has happened. Had someone throw a drink at me. I've had, someone start crying. Someone, uh, the crying, that was years ago. The crying was a crazy thing because she started crying. It wasn't even this, it was a joke about a puppy. This is like over 10 years ago. But, it was something about wanting to strangle a puppy and describing, you know, twisting its neck off. I can't remember what the joke was exactly at this point, but whatever it was, she started saying, "How could you say that about puppies? Oh, puppies are so wonderful. Puppies, I love puppies." And then she started crying and she got up and she left. But meanwhile, it's a comedy show, and you know how some of these shows are. I mean, every other topic has been hit by comedians: AIDS, rape, sodomy, Ebola, necrophilia, incest, crack. I mean, everything you could think of. And there was no reaction. She was fine. But the puppies was,
Too
that was,
much.
that was their line, apparently. That
Yeah.
was no, not puppies. But and I wanted to say it's a fictional joke. The puppy doesn't even exist. No puppy was hurt. It's like when you see the movie and they're like, no animals were actually hurt. But somehow people don't understand this. You know what I'm saying? That sometimes they don't get that it's a joke and it's a comedy environment. And now I don't know how funny that bit was. It was so long ago, but for that to be the thing that made her cry was very strange, and it was eye opening too because it made me realize people will always find something to be offended. It has to do with their own past and their own personal situations, and it doesn't always have to do with what you're even saying. So you have to pretty much commit to what you want to say and do, and yes, read the audience, but at the end of the day, there's no way to guarantee that someone's not going to be offended. It's just part of the process.
Well, now today everybody just gets offended from everything. Like I don't see how anybody could just have a normal conversation anymore and just say whatever's on your mind without hurting somebody's feelings.
There is a greater prevalence. See, I live in Alabama, so we don't experience it as much. But I know when I go back to New York, where I'm from, which I do a lot, they're much more sensitive there about a number of issues. So it is the world, the world we live in. But I think whether you're a comedian or not, at the end of the day, you have to have a certain degree of thick skin, or you have to develop that and be resilient. Otherwise, you'll never get anything out, or you'll never do anything. I don't know. I'm not preaching, but I don't know if that's how you feel. But
No, I just know, like, I just tell whatever's on my mind. If they get offended by it, then oh well. They're just gonna have to live with it because it's not a my problem, it's a their problem.
exactly,
It's not my.
exactly.
I think that's
Sometimes,
why.
sometimes you call out the absurdity of it, and sometimes that can get laughs from other people in the moment, or the cultural absurdity of the place you're in, and you would think, oh, this is bad to do because you're so kind of messing with them a little. But a little bit of that actually with comedy works. I've found, at least for me, pushing the boundary a little bit because you don't want to play it too safe either.
So, what are some of your biggest influences when it comes to comedy and writing?
Comedy and writing. Well, for writing, this would be an obvious one, but I'd say Bukowski was a big influence because I always really enjoyed his books, his poetry, um, kind of the renegade artist mindset. Um, Also, I like that his stuff, it has a comedy, but it has a rawness to it, and it has a willingness to say the truth and a willingness to be unliked. I mean, in his first novel, Post Office, he describes raping a woman. The character rapes a woman. It just gets skimmed over and over nothing, really. It's just kind of like a passing thing. He's dropping off the mail and then he just rapes her. Most writers wouldn't put that as their protagonist. I mean, it's the exact antithesis of what that Blake Snyder guy says in Save the Cat. Always have your protagonist save a little animal so that'll be endearing to the audience. But Bukowski pulls it off. He's one of the most read writers because there's it's just relatable, his writing. But in terms of other influences, there's so many with writing and comedy, but I'd say it keeps changing. I love Woody Allen was probably one of my biggest influences because the mix of the writing and the comedy, and I always admired his movies. And there's a lot though. I constantly find new in terms of stand up. I love Dave Attell. I mean, Brian Regan is not my style, but I always admired his style of comedy that he's able to do without being filthy. Um, and I love satirists for writing. Another one would be someone like going back, Jonathan Swift, Gulliver's Travels. Um, Nathaniel West is another one. Just kind of writers that go against the grain or comedians that I do love the ones that I find interesting, and it's eclectic. I guess it's eclectic, it's mixed. But when I see people that I enjoy, I tend to get really into their work and follow it. Oh, another big influence would be Don Rickles. I love how
Hmm.
he he was just great. How he just went off the dome because a lot of comedians they're funny, but it's only after a lot of study and going home and planning it. But Rickles, I mean, he just burned the comedy. It just came out of him. Um, and so I love that kind of stuff.
So you worked a lot of comedy clubs, and I think one of the highlights I have here is you worked the Gotham City Foundation.
Oh, Gotham Comedy Foundation. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Um, so I was very involved with that organization through a man named Bill Drews, who claimed to heal his cancer by something called laughter therapy, which is like regular therapy, only it doesn't make you hate your parents, right? So it's basically um, doing things to put you in a laughing consciousness, like watching Marx Brothers movies. There's actually a guru who teaches people to laugh um, as a therapeutic thing. So anyway, he believes in the power of laughter as a healing implement. And I know some people might be skeptical of that. They want to stick with the chemo or the radiation, and that's cool. But uh, basically, his whole goal of that organization was to bring comics into places like Sloan Kettering or even old age homes or the Holocaust survivors, people that are struggling, people that are having difficulty, and bring them a little laughter. If nothing else, it brings joy, but it could bring healing and a sense of wellness to these people. So that was the impetus behind the organization. And because I got Crohn's and I found laughter healing for myself, I was interested in getting working with him. And so we did a bunch of events and stuff, and we had benefits at Gotham Comedy Club, and I did do it at Sloan Kettering and various other places, you know.
I mean, you worked all over the place. You worked 7 countries.
Mhm.
You've been able to do your stand up everywhere, basically.
A lot of places, a lot through Europe, Portugal. I was at Edinburgh Festival in Scotland. I was in Denmark, Sweden, France. With some of the places I did comedy, and I'm probably forgetting a few off the top of my head, but a lot of places. Yes,
So
Canada.
what, so what was it like when you actually traveled to go do stand up? When you actually had to like leave the country?
Well, actually, the audiences in Europe were highly receptive. They were some of the best audiences I've ever seen. Um, Especially Sweden and Denmark. They uh, they are great. They speak English fluently, but but I'm exotic there. You know, I'm like a duck-billed platypus or something. They don't see a lot of people like me, so to them
That's
it's a big deal. And but they have different comedy there. Like for example, because it's the Nordic countries. So like you know how here someone will do a joke about a Puerto Rican or a black person or whatever race jokes, but they're all white. So it'll be like a Swedish guy making fun of a Norwegian or something, and then the Finnish do it this way. So it's all like shades of white racism and stuff. But anyway, it's very bizarre, but they're great. It's a great place. I don't know if you've been over there. Great place to visit those countries and very receptive, very nice people.
so I wanted to ask you about your one of your awards. You received the Long Island Chapter Mission Award. How was that like for personally and professionally?
Well, that was the night I told you with my grandma and that whole thing
Yeah.
with but that was nice because I've been involved with that organization for many years, and my family has because not only do I have Crohn's, but two of my brothers have it. I'm one of four brothers, and my grandfather had it, so it's family ailment or something. And fortunately, my brothers are all doing well. I'm doing well now, but we've been involved with this organization, and they find treatments and try to help people outreach. And their goal is to find a cure. And so it was great to get that award. It was a nice honor. Yeah, I'm not big on awards, but it was nice. Everyone was there.
And I
Maybe
also want
it's like when you
to,
get to heaven, it's like everybody there loving you and appreciating you. I don't know. It's you don't get much like that, and then it's for the cause. Yeah, so it's pretty good.
so do you have any like upcoming projects that people want to know about?
Well, just this book, even though I see it here, it's coming out March 7th on the paper. Like it's only available for pre-order right now. So that's one. And then also, this is kind of a passion project, but I have this short film called Sorry Mom. My mom passed away 3 years ago, and I made this little short comedy film that is loosely based on my dynamic with her, but some other elements. It's only like 8 minutes, but we're gonna try to do a couple of film festivals and whatnot. And it's basically about like a domineering, bossy mother and the son and is wayward and the comedy that comes from their different values and um but so that should be coming out soon. I have a lot of stand-up gigs. There's a few. You can check my calendar, but I'm updating with some more. And I hope to put out some more books in the next year. There's three other books that are close to finished. So I'm hoping to bring those out into the world, at least over the next year or two or three. Um, so that's it. Just plugging away and trying to keep creative, keep in that zone, and be the best person I can be.
So do you have anything else before you leave off that you wanted to say?
Well, thank you for having me on this podcast. This is a great chance to share, and I guess the only thing else I could say is, hey, let's right now we're all politically divided. The country is, there's a lot of tension there, but we can come together by being our higher selves, by creating and working together and supporting each other. I really feel like we support each other, it comes back. Like someone's doing something, I try to support them, buy their book or see their movie or whatever it is. And that's what we got to do. We got to work together now because at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We're all Americans or whatever you want to label us. So there needs to be some kind of unity anyway. Sorry, I'll get off my stump, but I think that's more important than ever in this country. All right. So I don't talk about that normally, but that was just something I was feeling.
Of course, we all need to work together.
Yeah.
We all very much do. But thank you for coming on, Matthew. And for everybody else, you can subscribe, follow, and comment if it's good. If it's bad, just put a comment on there for us. Tell us how shitty we're doing. We'll be all right.
Right on.